Hello, Sophie, and welcome to my version of Yes, She Can, a show that kind of tries to talk about the myths and the truths of what a woman can and cannot do. And so I'm so delighted to have you on. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I want to talk about how we met. So I did a video and I posted it on LinkedIn, and someone saw it and contacted you. It was about me wanting to continue my PhD, aspire to do my PhD. And one gentleman said, I wouldn't be attractive if I do my PhD because, well, I'm an unmarried woman and it would scare men away. And so I'm glad we spoke and we went for it. That being said, I saw on your LinkedIn and I think on your website as well, I think you have a mantra which says she believes, so she leads. Now, this is a world just like mine, where a woman, even though she dares to dream, she is kind of, you can only grow as much as the cage or the confinement of what society expects of you. So how can you then dare to believe and then dare to lead?
Well, I think a really, really good question. And one of the reasons that we have not just the role models like yourself, which will feature, but we also work with businesses to help them expand that cage, as you really eloquently put it. So you're absolutely right. And when we first started Yes, You Can, we didn't think about that. We were saying, push yourself, you can achieve whatever you want. And actually, you have the ability to achieve whatever you want, but do you always have the opportunity? And that's where we realized actually that's when we needed to start working with businesses. And we've worked with some brilliant businesses who are, you know, who have moved along on their diversity journey, who are more inclusive now, whose cages are getting bigger. So it's a really difficult one. All we can do is keep trying to influence, keep trying to, you know, win hearts and minds. And like I say, work with organizations who want to change, they just don't know where to start.
Interesting. So you talk about diversity and inclusion is a journey, but we are in the year 2020 and we still have showing on Instagram and LinkedIn and other social media platforms that, oh, first woman CEO, first Black person here. We are living in the world of first only different. And so my question, how long is this journey, Sophie? And how can we speed it up? Should we speed it up?
Yeah, the journey's ridiculous. I was watching a documentary on the Kennedy family, the American famous political dynasty. And there was a clip from the 60s, I think it was like 1961, 1962, where Bobby Kennedy started to get involved in the civil rights movement. And he said, and he said something like, you know, what is this? This is 1962, not 1862. And you think, God, actually, that was what, 60 years ago? Yeah. And we haven't moved on that much. And that's really, really depressing. And we shouldn't be in a world of firsts, but the difference now, I think, and the beauty of it now is at least those firsts are being celebrated as positives. Overwhelming reaction to Kamala Harris as an example of being, you know, vice president elect was one of absolute positivity.
Yeah.
Should she be the first? Should it have taken this long? Absolutely not. But all we can do is keep pushing, keep believing, keep influencing where we can, keep showcasing fantastic women, just so people start to realize this is normal. This should be normal. And over time, you know, these will lose the first, and it will just become, instead of female CEO appointed, it will just be CEO appointed.
Yes.
How long that's going to take? I mean, the gender pay gap, I think, has got another 100 years before we match up, which is just, there are no words. But
it sounds like common sense. You pay someone for the job they do, not because of their gender. I still don't get it.
Unfortunately, I mean, a lot of the time it isn't just because it's a male-female thing. It's because of how women tend to approach pay negotiations, how women view their ability at work and how they talk themselves up. So there's a few different factors thrown in there. But yeah, ultimately, it is ridiculous that it will take that long. But we just have to keep pushing forward and keep being positive. I think as soon as we take our foot off the gas, as soon as we stop showcasing amazing women who are achieving and doing brilliant things, and making that the norm, that's the only way we're gonna catch up.
Yeah. So I saw also on your page that women tend to self-promote less than men, and also ask, as you said, ask for a higher pay or value their worth more. So this is where we are at the moment. Is there something that the companies can also do to kind of help breach the gap? And what is
Definitely. I mean, I think what we're very, many organizations do a competency-based recruitment process, which in theory was supposed to take away any issue in terms of like, well, this person's done this role and this person looks like me as an example, therefore I'm going to hire them. But it doesn't, because it's still subjective. I think that person has achieved this competency because there's no real target. So what we need to, and the self-promotion piece about women is, because we won't say, well, we've done a great job about that and shout it and sing our own praises. That doesn't necessarily come naturally to a lot of women. So we'll fly under the radar. If organizations have structured, tangible measures in terms of performance, that helps because it puts everyone on an even keel. When we look at recruitment, if we make sure there are things that we can do in terms of making sure the language that we use isn't gendered, because there are sort of words that we associate to be more male, we do female. If we make sure that the people on the recruitment panel is a diverse recruitment panel as well, so we don't just have that affinity, well, that person looks like me, even unconsciously. So that person looks like me, therefore I've got more in common with them, therefore they'll be a great fit for this team. What we try and talk to businesses about is about recruiting based on values, not experience. You can teach someone a role. The vast majority of jobs that people do, they can be taught. Yes, some will take longer and some are more complex, but they can be taught. What you can't teach is hard work, commitment, trust, loyalty. They're values that are really, really important. And actually they're the values that will mean you're going to get the most out of that team member and most return from that employee. So we're just trying to move the dial in terms of how we initially recruit people, whether that be internally or externally. But yeah, the self-promotion piece is interesting. We also do courses online to try and encourage women and develop their skills for public speaking and presentations and negotiations, etc., to try and bridge that gap as well.
Yeah, I think it's mainly because most cultures, you have it as a woman should be seen and not heard. And so you don't see her kind of being outward, or she'll be seen as you are in my face too much, or you're being too bossy. And so to be able to avoid that criticism or that kind of tag, you kind of, okay, let me just work in my space and be quiet about it. But it's also hurting your career, it's hurting your future as well. Now let's talk about tokenism.
Yes.
So how then can we go around this notion?
I think that's a really difficult one, because some organizations will hire to make their statistics look better.
Yeah.
Some organizations will hire someone who can absolutely do that job, and they just happen to be a female, or they just happen to be Black.
Yeah.
And or wherever, whoever. So I think what we have to appreciate are the good businesses and the bad businesses.
Okay.
Bad businesses hire for tokenism, so their stats look better, but what we find is their retention rate is awful, because those employees leave because actually the organization doesn't want them there. They've been hired for a tick box and you don't enjoy it, and therefore you leave and you take your talent elsewhere. The good organizations may very well change their recruitment processes, may very well historically have not have chosen us for a particular role, but they've realized, hold on a second, they might not necessarily have 100% of the boxes ticked on their resume, but they've got 95%, and the 5% I can teach, I can support, I can make sure that they will be, that they will get there. Therefore, why wouldn't I employ this individual? Because I know they can do the job for all intents and purposes. And will that help from a stats? Yeah, I mean, what we can't shy away from is these conversations are happening. Organizations know and want more diverse workforces. So at some point, something's got to give.
Yeah. What
we have to always remember is, and we say this a lot, is as long as that individual is a role model, as long as that, from our side, as long as that individual is qualified, then there isn't tokenism. Okay. All you're looking to do is move the dial and allow someone who you perhaps haven't given an opportunity for haven't given an opportunity to historically, well, you're now changing that. And that's what, that's what particularly diverse recruitment is about. It is about allowing everybody access to the same opportunities. If you have to change, the timing of an interview to allow access for everybody, then you do it. If you have to change where you're communicating those opportunities to, then you do it. So tokenisms, if the individual is able, is qualified, then it isn't tokenism. If it is purely because they want people, they want to tick a box, then it is. But that's an organization that you wouldn't want to work in anyway, in my opinion anyway. That organization doesn't have the cultures and the values that would encourage diversity and inclusion, because they just see it as a tick box.
Exactly. So,
and we always say, don't pretend, when you hire people, most businesses aren't the perfect environment when it comes to diversity and inclusion. But if you're trying and you're honest, a lot of people will stay with you for the fight and to see that culture change through. But you have to be honest about it in the first instance. You have to say, look, you're here on merit. Yes, there aren't many women, but you are absolutely here on merit. Will it be an easy ride for you? No, but we'll do our best to support you through it.
Exactly. I think that's the truth that they should say, because it's not just about hiring the women and ticking the box, as you've said, but letting them know that they do belong there. Because already them coming in there and seeing that, oh, I'm the only different one here, you feel a burden. You feel like all eyes are on you. And so to ease it, they could support. I think that's where most companies, especially the male-dominated ones, could come in and help women as well.
Exactly. There's a few really simple, straightforward things that can be done just to help move the culture forward. And that's what that's what most, certainly the businesses that we work with, that's what they all want to do. They just want to move that culture forward. And honesty and transparency are so important to do that.
Let's talk about the Hampton-Alexander review.
Yes.
So I read your blog on that amazing blog. They said they were committed to getting 33% women on boards and leadership teams. That means the 350 top companies in the UK are willing to have 33%. Now, that's my question. In 2011, I think I saw it was 11% and they achieved 9.5%. So why 33%? Why not 50%? Why not 80 or 100%?
Do you know, I don't know where they got the 33 from. I can only assume that actually that was a push, but still achievable in the time frame. So they wanted to achieve it by 2019, 2020, I think, or 2022. So they gave themselves sort of 10 years effectively. And I think it was just the realism to say, actually, we haven't got necessarily enough women in business with the caliber, because obviously we don't want it to be tokenism, with the caliber and the experience to sit on leadership teams, on executive committees, on PLC boards. We haven't got 50% of numbers. So what we would end up doing then is over promoting somebody potentially. Okay. Now the irony is how many males are over promoted to get to those levels. Well, unfortunately we're not dissecting that. But we'd end up over promoting somebody, and then rather than women coming onto a board and strengthening it, because they would, if they are of the the right caliber and the right quality with the right experience, they would potentially devalue that board. So I think it was a right, this is a tough target to hit, but it actually is achievable with people trying, rather than go for 50%. Obviously, ideally we want 50-50 everywhere. But I think that was perhaps a stretch too far in the short term. Yeah,
but then for me, I think just because I saw that they estimated for 11% and they got 9.5. So there's this saying that aim for the stars, and at least when you get to the skies, something like that. So why not aim higher? With that, you would have a push internally. You would seek for more trainings. You ask yourself, what do we need to achieve that? You will be challenging yourself to get that. But when you set the bar low, you're likely going to get something lower. If here, it's great, but still low.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think they also will have had to have dealt with, and I don't know, I'm playing devil's advocate, they will have to have dealt with some business leaders. So we've got 350 businesses we're talking about. not all of them will want change. Not all of them will want women involved.
Tell me about it.
So I think that perhaps it was a bit of an awareness that if we make it so difficult to do, i.e. 50%, because it would be very difficult to do,
yes,
people just won't bother doing it at all. So it's that, it's the difference between having a completely unachievable target for a lot of those organisations, therefore they'll just not bother, because it'll be, you know, the perception is, well, we can't achieve it anyway, so what's the point in trying? Whereas if they put it and they bring it down a bit, so it's still a target and it's still an improvement, but it isn't quite as pie in the sky, those businesses might think, okay, that's going to be tough, but I reckon we could probably do it. Let's try. And it's marrying that up. And then you throw in businesses that don't want change at all. They'll just think, well, we're not going to bother anyway. You're just forcing us to do this. And the problem is, like anything, if you are forcing someone to change, and they don't want to, then actually you're going to do more harm than good. So it's a combination of trying to balance all of that and get more women in the positions that they should be in those leadership positions that they should be in.
So talking directly to those companies who don't want to change from a perspective of yes, she can, what message would you have for them?
Well, obviously we don't often talk to businesses that they're not bothered, they're not interested in talking to us. But what I would say is, I think for me, it's look at the statistics. Okay, look at the profit that diversity and inclusion brings in. Look at the research that increases motivation, increases retention. Look at the data in terms of, you know, revenues. Look at the data in terms of ideas, new product generation. Look at the data in terms of winning market share.
Yeah.
When it comes to diversity, it isn't just women, it's all diverse, you know, it's all diversity. It makes businesses better. And as a business leader, if you are going to ignore that, then it's at your own peril, because that's where we're going. And businesses that are willing to get on that diversity journey, as we've already said, will overtake you, will take your customers off you, will take, you know, have new product generation above you, will have innovation. So they'll just get left behind over time anyway. And also, you know, we also say, look, it's coming down the path in terms of we expect there to be ramification from a shareholder perspective. So if you aren't diverse, your shareholders will not like it. If your shareholders don't like it, your share price goes down. Your share price goes down, your whole business value reduces, which is massive. We would say, look at the statistics. They're real, they're proven. It isn't just one source. Think about the reputational damage. Think about potentially the legal ramifications of that. You need to future-proof your business. And if you aren't diverse, then you're not doing that.
Yeah. Is there a business or a company that you think is doing very well in diversity and inclusion?
Oh, do you know what? There are a lot. And not one actually just pops to mind. I've got in my head now all of a sudden thinking about various different roles and boards and stats and stuff, but I don't want to attribute the wrong person to the wrong company. But there are a lot of businesses that are doing well. I say a lot. There are some businesses that are doing really well. And I know John Lewis have appointed a female CEO, black woman. ITV have put the diversity and inclusion lead on their executive committee. So there are some really big, well-known business. I think Lloyd's Banking, I think they're up there as well from a demographic perspective. There are some really big, strong names that are out there doing some brilliant things. But then there are also some businesses, you know, some of the businesses that we work with are doing some really, really good stuff. They're just not that well known necessarily. And they're doing it on a smaller scale. So they're investing in the people that they have in their organization now, so that they know that, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years, actually, they're going to be on the executive committee. So it depends where you're looking from, really, almost looking from the sort of grassroots, who's investing now in their teams so that they get there in 5 to 10 years, and who's doing it on a bigger scale and, you know, and bringing people in and are willing to do that. There is some good stuff. There absolutely is some good stuff. There's just not enough of it.
Let's talk to the women who get the opportunity to sit at the table, who get the opportunity to be in those rooms. I saw a post, was it yesterday, of I think the first woman astronaut, American astronaut. And she said, I didn't even know I was a role model until I came back from my journey and I realized how important it is to be there. So what will be your message to a lady or a woman who has had the opportunity? Because like it or not, people are looking up to you, and you have not just a seat, but you have a voice in that room. So what would be your message to them?
I think it's not always easy. You know, a lot of the time, you know, women who've achieved have done it because, you know, they've wanted to achieve and worked really hard and taken advantage of the opportunities as they've come about. They don't want to be role models. They don't want to be poster girls. But unfortunately, that's part of it. And I think it's just, you know, for me, it'd be a case of just saying, you know, thank you, because what you're doing and the sacrifices that you're having to make by being featured on this or being, you know, emailed by us to say, come and be a role model. It's because what you've done is incredible. And a lot of women that we talk to, they don't see themselves as role models, which is really interesting because they absolutely are. And when it's a woman who's a first, it has a huge amount of gravity. But I always think that actually, if you're the first, the more you are a role model, then the quicker you will become the second, because if you can't see it, you can't be it. So it's more about, you know, unfortunately, sometimes your lives are made harder by being that role model, particularly on such a scale as the first, you know, female astronaut. But that then means that you've opened the door, and the immense sense of pride that must be taken from that, it you know, will hopefully outweigh the frustration, the hassle, the extra role that you're having to be, which is that poster girl. Yeah,
it's like the gifted burden. Like you want to be recognized for the job that you do and not for your gender, but you carry this burden of you need to represent so that other women will have opportunity, so that it won't be that hard like you had to come into that room.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are the other career glass ceilings you see for women?
Politics. Yes, the UK has had 2 female PMs, but you know, that's all, and that's ridiculous. So I think there's politics. I think the financial sector is very, very male dominated, particularly at the higher levels. You know, you go into a bank and there are a lot, you know, and you look behind the counter and, you know, probably the majority are women. But then when you look at management level and above, actually they tend to be men. And that's similar in most industries, even in nursing. You know, statistically in the UK, or certainly England, 11% of nurses are male. But once you get up to a senior nurse manager level, that jumps to 18%.
Oh.
And for me, that doesn't make any sense. Like what, you know, so there are glass ceilings everywhere we go, unfortunately. But some of the I guess some of the more prominent ones for me, would be absolutely politics, politics, financial sector, and law, I would say.
Amazing. Okay, so finally tell us about Yes She Can, what you're doing, and any support that we can do to help you.
So Yes She Can, we've got 2, which I've sort of spoken about as we've gone on.
Yeah.
We've got 2 things that we do. The first one is to provide role models. So we go and we contact real models, as we've started to refer to them, such as yourself, so we can understand about you, your story, get some career advice, and just to show that, you know, much like, you know, we've had the conversation in the past, you know, growing up, you were supposed to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. And actually, those are brilliant professions, but it meant that you didn't see what other opportunities there are. We want to showcase that, you know, the opportunities are endless, irrespective of your gender. So we bring real models to the fore across our social media channels. We also work with businesses on their diversity journey. So that could be helping them with strategy. That could be helping them with brand awareness. That could be helping them doing training and development and coaching, anything to support those businesses on, you know, to be more diverse and to be more inclusive. In terms of help, just give us a follow. You know, we've got social media channels. We've got Yes She Can UK. on Instagram. We've got our Yes She Can page on LinkedIn, and we've got our Yes She Can page on Facebook. And yeah, give us a follow, start sharing, start spreading the word, because all we're trying to do, give us role models. You know, we'll always want to, you know, like, you know, Eugenia was contacted via somebody else, and then I, you know, contacted her. So the more people we can feature and the more people we can communicate with, the bigger the difference that we'll make. And that's what we're trying to do.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much for your time, Sophie. Really appreciate this.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.